Here we are told that a proportion of people who are satisfied with the way things are going in their lives is 0.88. Suppose that a random sample of 100 people is obtained. What I'm going to do in this video is mostly talk through parts C, D, and E. So if you need to, take a moment to pause the video to read what was selected for parts A and B so that we can move on to part C. So in the big picture, what we're doing here in part C is verifying that this sampling distribution is approximately normal. And there's some criteria that need to be met in order to do so. So these requirements are what's being asked of us. So what we're looking at first is it says since the sample size is, and we have to select one of these two. And this sample size is less than 5% of the population. So if we think about that, we don't have the number of the population, but we can safely assume that the population that they're referring to here is much larger than this one little sample of 100 people. Now, less than and the phrase no more than mean one and the same thing. The next part that we'll do here is we will compute n times p times 1 minus p, and we want to verify that that calculation is greater than or equal to 10. This is what I would type into my calculator to perform that calculation, and I get 10.56. Now, because this criteria has been met, I can safely say that the distribution of p hat is approximately normal. We have formulas to calculate mu of p hat and sigma of p hat. Mu of p hat is pretty simple. This is the same as the proportion. In this case, this is going to be 0.88. Sigma of p hat will take some calculation. So I want to show real quick from this assignment. Let me drag this over here. Where I'm getting this information from is the standard deviation of the sampling distribution of p hat is sigma p hat equals the square root of p times 1 minus p hat all over n. So I now need to perform that calculation to get the standard deviation of the sampling distribution. And I get 0.032 when I do so. So everything that we did here in part C was basically to say that this sampling distribution of p hat is approximately normal. Now when we go through parts D and E, we're going to use the normal distribution to help us calculate these probabilities that we're being asked for. So this is when we can pick up StatCrunch or the TI-84 calculator to bring in some more technology. So in part D, we're told that in the sample obtained in part A, what is the probability that the proportion who are satisfied with the way things are going in their life exceeds 0.92. So this is where I can pick up StatCrunch, and I'm going to go to Stat, Calculators, and Normal, much in the same way that we did for the previous lesson in this particular chapter. I'll type in the mean and standard deviation that I just calculated. I'll type in the specific value that I'm given in part D, and then I can calculate this probability. I may need to change this inequality here, but that's how I'm using StatCrunch to help me solve this problem. So when I give this StatCrunch calculator this information, I can compute and I can come up quickly with this probability that I need. So let me copy that and paste it in here. For part E, very similar, except for this time we're looking for how it's worded just a little bit differently, but we first need to find this probability that the proportion is less than 0.81, and I get 0.81 because I'm being told here that I'm looking for fewer than 81 of the 100. So 81 divided by 100 is 0.81. So let's go back to StatCrunch to do that calculation. And I'll change this to the less than and compute. I get this probability. I'll need to round that 3 to a 4. And that is unusual because this probability is less than 5%, that mark of significance that we often use.